Good evening, boys and girls. Coming to you live from the Bowman House dining room. I thought I'd read to you from Humphrey, and just wanted you to know that I miss you so much. And I realized today that all these invitations I've been sending for you guys to come in and join our Google Meet had not been going out. So I think I've got that fixed. I also went on a walk tonight and I took several pictures of different things, and I'm going to send them to you, and I want you to choose one, and I want you to write a story about it, what you think. Use your imagination. You can do Google Slides, but I want you to write something about one of the slides of one of the pictures that I send to you. I had hoped to come and do a ride through your neighborhood, but they have told us we can't do that right now, but that's okay. I can still cheer for you on here, right? Woohoo! Okay, so this is where we are. We're on chapter 12 called Family Matters. So here we go. The last thing we read was we heard that Aldo was looking for a teaching job, and that a guy named Bob had come in to work in his place, and they liked him and they wanted him to stay. So let's see what happens the next day. The next morning, my classmates ran over to our table to check on our tadpoles. They didn't even say good morning to me. To squeak the truth, I was trying not to look at the tadpoles. Look, Simon shouted as he raced to our table. Wow! I couldn't help it. I hurried to my side of the cage to look at my neighbors. There they were, swimming around in their aquarium. Their heads and legs had changed overnight. They didn't exactly look like frogs, but they were definitely not specks anymore. My friends all crowded around the aquarium. Joey opened his notebook and began to sketch. When Cassie arrived, her cheeks were pink and her eyes sparkled. I can't believe it. I found another nest in the front yard and it has 4 eggs in it. Everyone gathered around her to see a photo she'd taken. "Aw," they said, "and they're so cute." "I'm calling the first eggs Eeny, Meeny, and Mo," Cassie said. "Now I have to think of 4 more names." "We still need to give the tadpoles names," Helpful Holly said. "How about Nog and Yog?" "After that, Uncle Og," Daniel suggested. Og leaped up and twanged boing boing. My friends giggled, but I didn't see what was so funny. "How about Dippy?" Kelsey said. "Dippy and Lippy, Dippy and Hippy." Thomas shook his head. "Those aren't good names. I think they should be Tad and Pole." No one else liked that idea. "Max," Simon said. "Max and, Mickey," Tall Paul said. "Max and Mickey." Rosie frowned. "What makes you think they're boys? One of them might be a girl." "Both of them might be girls," Nicole said. They argued in a friendly way, and finally Rosie said, "Flip and Flap." That doesn't sound like boys or girls. I like those names, and so did my friends. "Welcome to room 26, Flip and Flap," Mrs. Brisbane said. "Now, students, please take your seats." We started the day by reviewing my classmates' family trees. It was fascinating to hear the names of my friends' parents. Next, Mrs. Brisbane showed them where to add their grandparents' names. "Grandma and Grandpa," Harry said. Simon grinned. "Bubba and Zadie." "Abuela and Abuelo," Felipe said. Roland Rosie gave him a thumbs up. "Mine too." Goodness, there were so many names for grandmother and grandfather. Poppy and G-Ma, Granny and Gramps, Pawpaw and May-May. "One thing's for sure," Mrs. Brisbane said. "No matter what you call them, you all love your grandparents. Tonight, please add their real names first and last. Then we'll add your aunts, uncles, and cousins. I'll hand out an example that shows you where to put them." "I have a lot of cousins." "Stop talking," Sophie said. Mrs. Brisbane nodded. "Then you'll have a lot of apples on your tree." Felipe said, "Let's make Humphrey's family tree." The whole class thought that was a good idea, but I wasn't sure I had a family tree, or even a family. "Who were Humphrey's mom and dad?" Sophie asked. "Where did he come from?" Mrs. Brisbane thought for a moment. "I believe Mrs. Mack got him at Petorama." I didn't remember my family, but I did remember Petorama and the wonderful day Miss Mack chose me for the classroom pet in room 26. Of course, I didn't know she was a substitute for Mrs. Brisbane at the time. and I didn't know she'd be leaving Longfellow School for a while. I'm glad she finally came back. Humphrey must have had a family, Nicole said. I must have, I agreed. I remembered Carl and some of the other humans who worked at Petorama and took care of us in the small animal department, but I didn't think of them as family. They never even talked to me. Mrs. Brisbane said that when humans or animals grow up, they leave their families and go out on their own. Most of you will move out of your parents' home when you grow up, she said, but smaller animals grow up faster than humans, so they leave their mothers much sooner. Does anyone here have a dog that they got as a puppy? Some hands went up, including Joey's. Dogs are usually adopted by human families when they're puppies. How long does it take for a puppy to be ready to leave its mother, she asked. Joey said, Skipper was about 8 weeks old. He wasn't grown up until he was about a year old, but he still acts like a puppy sometimes. So it only takes a year for a dog to grow up, our teacher continued, and it takes an even shorter time for hamsters to be ready to leave their families. That's sad, Rosie said. Not really, Mrs. Brisbane said. It's natural. And if Humphrey stayed with his mother or Skipper stayed with his dog family, we wouldn't be able to have them as pets. Mrs. Brisbane was right as usual. If I'd stayed with my family or even stayed at Petorama, I wouldn't have the job of a classroom pet. It's the best job in the world. Cassie glanced over at our table. I guess Og doesn't remember his family. After all, tadpoles are on their own from the very beginning, she said. Og looks sad, said Rosie. I think he looks as if he's smiling, Mrs. Brisbane said. Look at his mouth. I wasn't sure, but my friends chuckled, and soon the subject changed. When Mrs. Brisbane announced another math quiz, I scurried to the front of my cage and looked at Cassie. As usual, she looked worried. When she glanced over at my cage, I immediately hopped on my wheel and began to spin. Cassie stared at me, and then she closed her eyes and took some long, deep breaths. Mrs. Brisbane passed out the test papers. Cassie took a few more deep breaths. I hopped off my wheel and watched her carefully. She didn't stare at her paper. She didn't hold her stomach. Cassie picked up her pencil and began to read the questions. She stopped every now and then to take a good long breath, and then she wrote down her answers. She looked over at my cage from time to time, and I tried to be encouraging. You can do it, Cassie, I said. You don't have to be perfect. Just do your best. Cassie finished the test before most of my other classmates. When she finished, she sat back in her chair and smiled. I was smiling too, though I'm pretty sure no one else knew it. On her way out of the classroom for lunch, Mrs. Brisbane asked Cassie how the math quiz went. I think I did pretty well, Cassie said, and my stomach didn't hurt. At the end of the day, Mrs. Brisbane made an announcement. I think some of you know Aldo Amato, our nighttime custodian, she said. He's Richie Rinaldi's uncle. Yay, Richie, I squeaked. He was one of my friends from last year's class. Aldo's wife just gave birth to twins, Mrs. Brisbane continued with a smile, a boy and a girl. The boy is named Marco after Aldo's father. The girl is named Anna after Maria's mother. My friends began to clap. Marco and Anna. I didn't clap my paws, but I loudly squeaked, yes, yes, yes. As they filed out of room 26, I heard my classmates buzzing about the new babies. They were as excited as I was. As soon as the classroom was empty, I jiggled the lock that doesn't lock and scurried over to Og's tank. Marco and Anna, I squeaked, a boy and a girl. Boing, he replied. Then I glanced over at Flip and Flap swimming in their aquarium. They were also twins. I'd almost forgotten that Aldo was my old pal Richie's uncle. Was Og really an uncle too? Suddenly it seemed as if everybody in the world had a family. Everyone except me. I wasn't sure whether Aldo would be coming in to clean that night, if it'd be Bob or some other stranger, but I wanted to make sure Gigi knew about the twins. So I took a chance and slid down the table leg and raced out of room 26. Gigi was still awake when I made my way up to her cage. I'm glad you came, Humphrey, she said softly. I wanted to tell you that Aldo's wife Maria had twins, a boy and a girl, I said. Twins? Gigi seemed confused. I explained that when humans have two babies at the same time, they're called twins. Oh, Gigi said, that's very good news. And that guy who came in to clean last night, he's just filling in for Aldo, I said. Oh, Gigi repeated. I was a little scared when he came, but he was nice. I'm sure Aldo will be back tonight, I said. Gigi moved a little closer to me. Humphrey, I'm worried about something. What's wrong, I asked. For the circus night, Miss Mack told us that our booth is called the clown toss. Are people really going to throw clowns? That doesn't sound very nice, she said. It didn't sound nice at all. Throwing things at people or animals isn't nice at all, especially if the people are funny and look like to make people laugh like clowns. I think she may have been joking, I said, or maybe you misunderstood what she said. Gigi nodded. I hope so. And something else. The children want me to wear a clown hat. But guinea pigs don't wear clothes. Neither do hamsters, I said. I think that's because we're already wearing our fur coats. Gigi giggled. You always make me feel better, Humphrey. I was glad I'd made Gigi feel better. But I didn't feel so great myself when the door opened later that night. I was looking forward to congratulating Aldo, but instead, Bob was back. It's me again, he said, and he pulled his cart through the door. Hi, I said. Even though I was disappointed, I didn't want to hurt Bob's feelings. He dusted for a while, and then he remembered to give Og and me our treats. I told my kids about you, he said. Now they want a hamster and a frog, too. Boing, Og sounded pleased. Bob was an unsqueakably nice human, but I still missed Aldo. I wondered whether he was ever coming back to room 26, and if not, why hadn't he at least told us goodbye? That night, I had a dream. I don't remember it clearly, but there was a large, soft, furry creature who smelled wonderful, and I was snuggled up against this creature with some other small bits of fur. I felt so peaceful next to her, and then I heard her say something to me. Remember this, she squeaked. No matter where you go, you'll always be my special golden boy. I wonder if he was dreaming about his mother. I woke up with a start and squeaked, Mother! The only answer was Og's loud boing. Sorry, I told him. I think I had a dream about my mother and some brothers and sisters too. Boing, Og replied. I didn't tell him the rest of my dream. After all, he probably didn't remember his mother and father at all, and he was green, not a golden boy like me. Humphrey Spring things. I felt a little sad to see no branches on my family tree. So, we'll talk about family things tonight, and I think I told you in our last reading that I wanted us to talk about our family trees, and I wanted you to do a tree, an outline of a tree, and then at the bottom, on the left side, you put your dad's family, and on the right side, you put your mom. So you'd put your grandfather's name on the left side, and then your grandmother's, then go up the tree. I'll share mine with you tomorrow, okay? Then we'll add our brothers and sisters in later. Don't forget, I'm going to be sending you some pictures tonight of my walk that my husband and I and Socks took tonight. And I want you to write a little paragraph or story about a picture, okay? And you can do more than one if you want to make them go together as a story, but I'll send them to you. And hopefully we can have a Google Meet this week. I'm thinking since everybody works, which I know it's past school hours, maybe we could do it later in the evening, maybe like 5:30. I don't know when everybody has dinner. We have dinner at 6. So let me know if you want to do it like at 5:30 or if you want to do it maybe at 7. I don't want to encroach on your family time, but now you're being together all the time. So let me know. I love you boys and girls, and have a good night.